let me take you back to Lebanon for a moment. Okay, now we're in the summer of 2006. The region is still rocking from the promises that the United States has made about democracy being introduced, and it seems like maybe at best it was love at the end of a fist. The region is battered, and the United States has been rushing 600-pound bunker busters over to Israel to use in the last days of the war because of the Irish activists who were acquitted. Prime Minister Bernie Ahern had to say, sorry, you can't bring those bunker busters here. So they tried to land them in Scotland, and the Scotch were all out at their airport. They said, nay, nay, nay. They finally landed them in Qatar, and then the bunker busters came. They were used in the suburb of the Dahia. I was in Beirut at that time. We could feel the furniture under our seats and under our feet, the floors shuddering. Well, when we got down to Qana, we had a very macabre list that Professor Norman Finkelstein had created of 13 massacres that had been perpetrated by the Israeli Air Force and the Israeli Defense Force against the Lebanese people. Now, it's very important to remember that the Israelis also suffered loss of life and bereaved arms will ache for loved ones who will never return. By one estimate that I read, 147 Israelis were killed. 47 of them were civilians. 1/3 of them, Israeli Arabs. An estimated 4,250 Lebanese wounded. An estimated 1,230 killed. 50 factories destroyed. 3/4 of the overpasses and bridges destroyed. The airport close to destroyed. 1 million people homeless. You can't talk about anybody having won that war. And it was a very awkward question to walk into a town with our little list of 13 massacres and say, could you please tell us where the massacre was? And when we got to the town of Qana, some would remember it as Qana in the New Testament scriptures, a boy about the age of any one of the students here looked at us kind of squarely and said, which one? Because in Qana, in 1996, 105 Palestinians gathered at a refugee camp under United Nations High Command for Refugees Protection had been killed by an attack by the Israelis. And so we went there and we were attentive and silent. And then we walked a bit and we came to a place where the other massacre, the most recent one, had occurred on July 30th at 1 o'clock in the morning. An Israeli Air Force missile had hit a building that was designated as a shelter by parents in the neighborhood. They had taken their kids there, thought for sure the kids could have a safe night's sleep there. Maybe there were Hezbollah people there, I don't know. But there were children. And so we kind of abruptly walked right into the funeral celebration, sorry, not celebration, but funeral commemoration. And in front of one house, there were women draped in the black abaya, sitting on a patio. In front of the house next door, a number of men in white plastic chairs. So our group quickly divided, and my friend Farah Mokhtarzadeh and I just sat with the women for, oh, I don't know, a good 35 minutes in silence. And then one of the women started to speak. She was the mother of a 6-year-old girl whose photo became an almost iconic picture. It was taped to the sides of taxis. It was a photo of a helmeted relief worker who was holding up Zainab's body and screaming in agony as he had begun to unearth the corpses. And a second photo shows Zainab and her best friend Zahra nestled in each other's arms, their bodies not mutilated at all. What killed those little 6-year-olds was the force of the explosion destroying their internal organs. And the mother, every time she moved, shuddered a bit because she was wearing a neck brace and a medical hood and her abaya over that. But she wanted so much to communicate this torrent of words that she pointed up to the sky. And still, the drone surveillance planes, unmanned drones, were crisscrossing the skies and pointing at the path of one of those planes, she asked us, didn't they know? Couldn't they tell? Didn't they have the information that these were children in that home? They would run outside to our houses and play all day. And then she asked her son to bring the newspapers, the stack of newspapers with reports about her child. And then she sent for a framed picture of little Zahra, a little girl with round saucer eyes and curly brown hair, one of those serious poses where the child looks without a smile into the camera, but you could imagine the smile of this 6-year-old. And her mother, Zainab, tapped the plastic on top of the picture. And she asked us, is she the terrorist? And then what sent her into paroxysms of sobs was the memory that she somehow had to tell us that little Zainab loved to study English. She loved to practice her English words, and then that was too much for this young mother to bear. That memory searing her heart. And I juxtapose that with our questions when we came back from Iraq repeatedly after we traveled with our duffel bags full of medicines, a drop in the ocean of need. But still people were so grateful to connect with Americans who tried to understand, who wanted to try to make a difference. But I'm afraid that that kind of relatedness is narrowing ever more. And it poses for our children, for the next generations, some very real threats. If the United States is perceived as a dangerous imperial menace all around the world, it won't bode well for children of the next generations who have no say-so in all of this any more than they have any say-so in whether or not we so consume the available fossil fuels that there won't be anything left for them.